Okay, we need to talk about Liverpool because I think the situation is becoming a crisis. I think after the first loss and second loss, I was like, oh, that's not good, but maybe people are being reactionary. But I could understand Liverpool fans' fears because the wins weren't necessarily the most convincing. But it's got to a point now, and I know it was a heavily rotated lineup, and I know looking at the lineup, no one really thought Liverpool were going to win. But 6 losses in the last 7 is atrocious. Now, you can look at it and say Galatasaray away is difficult. Palace was a last-minute winner. Chelsea was a last-minute winner. Man United, you hit the post 3 times. The Brentford game, decisions went against you. The Palace game, it was rotated. You can look at it in that sense, but this is Liverpool Football Club. This is the team that won the league last season. This is a team that spent £400 million. This is one of the strongest squads in world football, and to lose 6 out of the last 7 games is not good enough. Now, you have to look at Slot for this lineup. Now, I get why Slot may want to go out of the Carabao Cup. I get that he's got Real Madrid, Villa, difficult games coming up. He needs to get wins in the league. But he's set this up to lose. Because at least with Arsenal, first of all, their B team is a lot stronger than Liverpool's B team. Like, Arsenal can have Ben White, Lewis Skelly, Hincapie and Mascara as a back four, whereas you look at Liverpool's back four, Gomez, Endo, Kirkes, Robertson is your backup back four. Yeah, like, obviously you don't have the squad depth of Arsenal, and I think with the money that was spent, you would expect Liverpool to have better squad depth. They should have gone for Mark Gahey, but there's no subs to bail you out. Saka comes off the bench for Arsenal and scores. At least have Salah on the bench and Gakpo on the bench, Szoboszlai on the bench, just so they can bail you out. Because I get that Slot may have wanted to go out this competition, and I get that Slot wasn't bothered and he wanted to rest and rotate players for the important games ahead. I fully get that. But it's the context and how you lose. There's one thing losing 1-0 to Palace in the Carabao Cup, or let's say you lost 2-1 to Palace in the Carabao Cup and you put in a good performance and you were unlucky and you rested and rotated. There's ways to lose. Not 3-0. Not in the way that you did lose. I think you started all right. Not in the way that you did lose. And there was no one on the bench that could come on and improve that. In fact, it just ruins the confidence of young players. Slot didn't want to win. Slot didn't want to go through. That's very obvious. We're going to get into Slot's comments. But there's ways to lose. If you'd have won your last 5 games, this doesn't matter loads. But when you've lost 5 of your last 6 games, I look at the Carabao Cup as a must-win. I'm a Man United fan saying this, but if I was Arne Slot and I was a Liverpool fan, I would not care that this is the Carabao Cup and maybe it's better for you to be out of it because you don't have the squad depth to be in it. I get that. But I'd also go, well, 5 of the last 6 games have been lost. This is a must-win for confidence. This is a must-win. And Slot doesn't see it that way. We are going to talk about Liverpool, the crisis they're in, how to fix it. Is it on Slot? Is it on the players? Today, I think Slot done the players dirt with the starting 11. I don't think you can blame the players too much, but I do think there's elements of the players where it's not all on Slot. But I look at it, 6 losses in 7, statistically the worst team in Europe since September, end of September, a 3-0 defeat to Palace at home. That's embarrassing. Like, I feel for the fans. I have a friend who was a Liverpool fan that's gone up with her son today, spent money, spent a lot of time to come up because they're not from Liverpool, not seen Liverpool in absolutely ages, and that's what they see. Like, that's what they see. Do you know what I mean? Like, imagine, some people spend a lot of money, spend a lot of time, they don't see Liverpool often, and they come up for that. And I think that's where Slot has done the fans dirty. By fielding that starting 11, he said, right, none of the strong players are here, we're going to lose, bloom. And I just don't think that's fair on the fans. There's ways to lose. There's ways to lose. The Carabao Cup isn't important, but there's ways to lose. Oh, you try, you bring a few of your stronger players off the bench, you get back in the game, you lose 3-2. No, 3-0, especially when you've lost now at 6 of the last 7. If you'd have won 6 of your last 7, it's different. But I just think you had to win this game because it's about direction, confidence, identity. There is a bigger problem at Liverpool than we first thought. There is a bigger problem at Liverpool than we first thought. I didn't know if it was being reactionary, but then I did say the wins weren't convincing. But this is a big enough sample size to say, okay, there is problems at Liverpool. And fans pay money to see that, not good enough. Slot, not good enough today. I'm not someone that's saying sack Slot. I don't think that Liverpool's answer is sacking Slot. But I can understand why Liverpool fans are starting to get frustrated and turn on him because he's not helping himself, particularly when it comes out with comments like this. I see it as a positive because it's one less game to play and maybe it's a good thing that we lost tonight. It's not a good thing that you lost 3-0 to Crystal Palace when you've lost your last six of your last 7 games. Okay, you're top of the league, you're 6 points clear, you don't need the Carabao Cup. In fact, if Arsenal had lost, it's fine because Arsenal don't need the Carabao Cup. They're going to focus on the league, and Arsenal have the squad depth built to go in all four competitions. Whereas I guess Liverpool don't. But Arsenal can just focus on the league. Doesn't matter for them. For you, I think it matters. For you, I know you don't have the squad depth Arsenal have, but I think if things aren't looking good in the league, at least you got the Carabao Cup. You're in it. Save your season. Win a trophy. Do you know what I mean? Look, I don't think Liverpool are out the title race. I think Liverpool have the quality to get back in it. And I think if you get back in it, you've got to look at your first 5 points of the season. I think your squad is too good not to turn this around. And I think if you don't turn this around, I'd be very concerned. I just think your team is too good to not turn it around, despite defensive issues. You know, the defense is a worry because Gomez been way off it in the 2 cup games. Van Dijk's off it. Konate's... the fullbacks aren't settling in. Defense is a huge issue at Liverpool. But outside of your defense, your squad, I feel like, is so good that you can still win this title race. But I do look at it, and I don't know why Arne Slot is saying it's a positive because it's one less cup to play in. Okay, it's one less cup to play in. Clearly, that's what Arne Slot wanted. He didn't want to go through. Cool. But I don't think it's a positive to lose 6 of your last 7 games and lose 3-0. There's ways to lose, and that is not a way to lose. That is your 3-0, 6 and 7 losses. That's humiliating. It's not you've won maybe 5 of your last 6 games, you lose this 2-1, whatever. That's humiliating. And you've got Aston Villa next, Real Madrid next, and Man City next. If Slot goes and beats Villa, Real Madrid, and City and gets 3 wins out of 3, I'll sit here and I'll say, okay, maybe Slot's plan to get knocked out the Carabao worked. Maybe Slot's plans to rest the players worked, because Slot was making it very clear in his post-match interview these players need a rest. So if they will go and win these next 3 games, which is such difficult games, you look at Slot and you're like, okay, fair enough. But if Liverpool lose to Villa, lose to Real Madrid, and lose to City, which is a real possibility, the questions then go back on Slot. Why did you get knocked out the Carabao Cup? Because Villa all of a sudden are in really good form, really difficult team to beat, one of the best form teams in the league. Real Madrid, they're unbelievable this season. Real Madrid is so much better than the Real Madrid you played last season at Anfield. And City's always a tough game. Forest, you know, whatever. If Liverpool go and win 3 of these games or draw 1 and win 2, you kind of look at it and you're like, all right, but if you don't get good results in these next 3 games, you will look at Slot's decision. Now, Slot did say, if you look at the week coming up, it's going to be a big week for us. We need as many players available as we can. You can see it today with the lineup. I only rested players that have played. A big week coming up for me. I felt it was the best choice. So Slot's reasoning is he doesn't really care that he's got knocked out. He rested the players he wanted to rest as a big week coming up. Fair enough. But they've got to produce this week, the Liverpool players, because it is looking like a crisis. And the thing is, like, is the dressing room going? Is there more to it? Chiesa said after the Brentford game that no one was speaking because afterwards everyone knows. Sometimes you don't have to speak about the situation, you know what's going on. So no one spoke because we have to think about what we can do better. And usually when we are in this situation, the first thing that comes to your mind is to give more, to train harder. It was good after the game we didn't talk because it's a sign that everyone wants to change. But I'm just thinking that lacks leadership. Maybe I've never been in a football dressing room at the Premier League level. So who am I to talk on this? You know, you probably want an ex-player to talk on this. But I'm thinking after a big loss, when you've lost so many games to Brentford, Van Dijk, Robertson, where are the experienced players showing the leadership? Because I look at Liverpool, and one of the biggest issues at Liverpool, I think, is a lack of leadership. And this has been an issue for a while that Liverpool have had. But in Klopp's last season, you were absolutely flying in Klopp's last season. You were absolutely flying. It got to March, you lost 3-0 to Atalanta. And then you went from, like, literally it was you, City, Arsenal, was a point between you. This was this title race. You were absolutely flying in March. Been fantastic the whole season. Lost 3-0 to Atalanta. And then you just couldn't win again. You went like that. It wasn't like you lost one game, but then you bounced back and it wasn't enough. You were flying and then you just crashed. And in the league title race, you were flying, you won the league, you just crashed. And I look at Liverpool now, and it's like you got the 5 wins, and then you got the loss, and you just crashed. I do feel is there a mentality issue. I do look at Liverpool and say, is there bigger issues there? You know, there's Slot's comments about using the kids in the cup. You know, I get why he did that, but probably wasn't the best choice. Probably isn't going to give the kids confidence. I think Liverpool are defensively collapsing. You know, Van Dijk looks lost. Konate's injury prone. That's an issue. You spent all that money and you don't have the squad that Arsenal have because you've maybe not spent it the most wisely. Maybe Arne Slot doesn't know how to use his new players to get the best out of them. At the end of the day, Slot did win the league with Klopp's squad, and now Slot's got to win the league with his squad and his ideas. and that's up to him to do that. I think he's a good enough manager to turn it around and do that. I think if Arne Slot gets a bit more time, I think he will turn it around. But it is concerning. You know, even the wins earlier in the season for Liverpool weren't convincing. There's a little bit of a favouritism issue with Slot. There's no accountability being taken. But I do look at Liverpool and think, just this team lack leadership. Maybe that's me, but does it lack a little bit of leadership? Does it lack someone to big them up? Because whenever Liverpool do really well, they're great. But as soon as things start to not go Liverpool's way, they don't just go, oh, it's just a one-off loss. They've crumbled. And yeah, anyway, Liverpool fans, let me know your thoughts down below. Thank you for watching. Bye.